Okay, welcome to the December Forum, Calumet Revisited for 2025-26. I am Michael Bowes of the Association for the Wolf Lake Initiative. Valerie Penninan, Professor Emerita of History at Calumet College of St. Joseph, is co-sponsor. Before we introduce tonight's speaker, are there any announcements? If not, tonight's speaker is Dr. Susan Duncan of the University of Chicago and a resident of Whiting. Her talk will be followed by a Q&A session. So Susan, would you like to get started?
I will. Yeah, thank you, Mike. I never knew that your name was pronounced Bowes, not Booze. Bowes. Good to know. Thank you for that introduction. And I see a number of familiar faces in the window here. Thanks all of you for coming. I'm really happy to have a chance to talk to this group, this gathering, about research in our region that's designed to assess pollution and its impacts on human health. There's a great deal of research going on, including a pilot study that I'm currently finishing up in the Eastside community area. I'll talk about that. A little bit about myself first. I'm with the Center for Innovation and Global Health at the University of Chicago. We have a mantra that global health is local health and vice versa. So we do research in sub-Saharan Africa and other places around the world. And we also do research right here in Chicago, primarily in the University of Chicago Medicine's catchment area. So large parts of the south side and southeast side. We have active research projects going. On this map of the Calumet region that you're looking at here, the three little dots represent places that I've lived since 1998, I think, in the Calumet region. So something that's kind of different about me compared to other folks, other academic researchers who are conducting studies in the region, is that I'm not only a researcher, but I'm also a resident of the region. So I kind of wear two hats. I'm both the scientist and I'm the community member who has the potential to benefit from results of research. So I'm kind of multidimensional, and I think about the research that we're doing from both perspectives. So another thing I will mention is, let's see, where's my control? Efforts to assess pollution and its impacts on human health in our region has a background interest, which is climate change. The warming planet has intersects with this issue of pollution and human health in ways that I'll try to outline a bit as we go along. But that's a real driver of a lot of the research that's happening now is growing concern about climate change and its impacts on our region. So our region is considered to be an area, an environmental justice region, an area that disproportionately experiences burdens of pollution. Everyone on this call knows that we have a lot of industry in the Calumet region, along with all the wonderful things, the marshland, the wild areas. We have a lot of industry. There are residual materials from legacy industry from the past, industries that have picked up and gone away. Our region is identified as one that suffers declining public health and well-being as a result of the environmental toxins that flow from this industry, both current and legacy. All of this is happening in an era of accelerating impacts of climate change, and these things interact to the detriment of human health. There's a lot of research going on that tries to pull all of these things together. The environmental science data that are incorporated need to go into understanding the whole situation are vast, huge, and require new approaches in big data analytics. Folks at the University of Chicago and a lot of other research institutions around are developing new strategies for big data analytics to look at atmospheric data, pollution data, everything that rolls into the stuff that's creating climate change and its various impacts. The other thing that's on everybody's mind down in the lower right corner these days, as we're doing this kind of research, is that there are communities here, actual real human beings, and the kind of research we do needs to speak to community needs. And in order for that to happen, communities need to be engaged in the research, need to be equal partners with scientists in making advances in scientific knowledge that we all hope will lead to improvements in quality of life and our health. Okay. U.S. government agencies have been papering our region with dollars to support this kind of research. And I want to take a minute at the opening to tell you guys about this. It's kind of stunning to me. It makes my head spin how much money has flowed into the Calumet region to conduct research on these issues that you see here. It goes back at least a decade. The thrust of the research, the plan for it, was summarized in this really nice 2021 white paper from NSF that sort of spelled out the program for addressing all of these problems in a unified, integrated way, environmental and human health research priorities. And there are, the research priorities are represented in the next three slides. David, this is where I need your help timing. The next three slides, I'm just going to kind of fire hose you with the stunning array of research that's happening in our region currently. A lot of money coming in. Okay, so a lot of money, what do I mean? National Science Foundation has pumped $38 million into a University of Michigan research project to set up environmental science infrastructure. Infrastructure. The Department of Energy, $25 million to a project called Crocus that's being run out of Argonne National Laboratory, a University of Chicago affiliate. Community research on climate and urban science. Their focus is climate change resiliency in communities. National Institutes of Health, $1 million a year for 10 years to Cache, a UIC U Chicago consortium whose job it is to distribute small grants to studies like the one I'm going to focus on later on regional air, water, and soil pollution and its impacts on health. And then National Science Foundation, $9 million, a project called SAGE, the Argonne National Laboratory and others, doing another infrastructure project for climate research, health, and scientific research. It goes on. National Institutes for Health, $3 million to Purdue, Notre Dame, Valparaiso University, Hope College, community academic partnership to address environmental contamination and health. You guys are familiar with this organization. Michael has had several of the researchers who are running this project speak at the Calumet Revisited Forum, the Northern Lake County Environmental Partnership. Oops, I got the acronym wrong. Northern Lake County, NLCEP, Northern Lake County Environmental Partnership. They're looking at air, water, and soil pollution in our region as a first step in their 5-year project. And then at present, they're moving on to the subsequent effort within that, which is to look at impacts on human health. So that's a study that's still recruiting. It's still very active. Many of you on this call will have already heard a lot about that. The EPA a few years ago gave $750,000 to UIC and some other institutions to look at a project that was called Shared Air, Shared Action, Community Empowerment through low-cost air pollution monitoring. Microsoft has pumped in a lot of money regionally for a project called Eclipse, which is about doing hyper-local environmental sensing in cities. They use Chicago as a test case and hung monitors for sensing all sorts of things about, environmental pollution and atmosphere and climate all around the city. Again, National Science Foundation has funded a wonderful project out of Loyola University, Community Air Research Experience, that the focus of that is to provide a STEM learning platform for underrepresented minorities, give students at the college level a chance to come in and do environmental research. So you see a lot of different types of focus for these different projects. One major focus is community empowerment, community engagement, community science. That's what a lot of these projects are getting funded to achieve. One thing is there have been so many of these projects now in our region that there's actually a fair amount of hardware left behind by many of them. Some of you may have seen these little leaf air quality monitors. There's one hanging on a bus shelter over by George Washington High School. If you're in the area, you can see these things around. They are defunct. They were active for the 3 months it took the researchers to figure out whether the technology worked and whether they could get people to interact with the data from them. And then the project was over, which is often the case. These projects come in with a lot of money, a lot of fanfare. They get a lot of people involved. Okay, I've got to move on to this one. I'll say more about that. Last slide of fire hosing you. Center for Neighborhood Technology up in Chicago got, I don't know how much money to establish and run the Chicago Truck Data Portal. They have folks out with air pollution monitors and their eyeballs at intersections all around the city, including on the southeast side. In the east side community area, I think they're at 106th and Ewing, taking data just on how many trucks pass by the point of monitoring every day. We know all kinds of useful stuff from that study now that's been going on for a few years. So for example, 1,500 diesel fueled trucks pass through the east side community area every day. And it's a huge source of the air pollution that I'm going to be talking about primarily in the neighborhood, along with all of the industry. Earth Justice, a nonprofit, funded Just Transitions Northwest Indiana, a group over in Michigan City that I know a lot of you are familiar with, on a nice little air quality monitoring project when the Michigan City NIPSCO was transporting all the coal ash from their pond cleanup activities out of Michigan City and taking it elsewhere to dump in somebody else's backyard. The local community got together, involved churches and students, and did some air quality monitoring with these little low-cost air quality monitors that you see here on the right, and you're going to see a bunch more of in a little bit. And I have just been taking data on the transport activity to see if it kicked up any kind of particulate matter air pollution that the community would need to keep track of and be concerned about. There are lots and lots more of these studies. And I just wanted to give you guys a sense of how much focus there is on the Calumet region, that all the various reasons that were special. One is that researchers, scientists are very interested in the complex of issues that we have here concerning climate change, pollution, and human health. A lot of research. This last little one, National Institutes of Health via the Institute for Translational Medicine, is the little project I'm going to spend the rest of our time mostly talking about. Compared to all these others, it's absolutely a tiny project. We got $60,000 from ITM, plus $15,000 that we found, extra, to do the project I'm going to talk to you about, community engagement with hyperlocal assessment of air pollution in relation to childhood asthma in a heavily industrialized community. That is the East Side community area of Chicago. And our partners in this were the Southeast Environmental Task Force, University of Illinois at Chicago Department of Public Health, and Argonne National Lab. Tiny little project as these things go, but we've been trying to make the most of it. Okay. In entering this field of research, I and my team at the University of Chicago have joined the hordes of nerds with laptops that Southeast Side folks complain about, and with good reason. I was on a call a couple of years ago with People's Council of the Southeast. I think they call themselves PC10 now, and heard this term, hordes of nerds with laptops, for the first time. Another person who was on the call was complaining about all of these research projects, all these people come through, all of this money, and they try to get the community all involved and riled up and make big promises, and then all of a sudden, poof, they're gone, and the community then never hears what the results of the research were. And there's a fair amount of cynicism and, well, other strong words that that describe how people feel about the research that's going on to the extent that they're aware of it. So to start a project like this is to come into an area where not only are there these toxicities in the environment, chemical toxicities in the environment, there's also a fair amount of toxic feeling about the whole research enterprise. And in that context, a whole bunch of researchers are trying to make community science happen, trying to make community members agree that collecting more scientific data and thinking about it together with scientists is a good thing. And it's a bit of an uphill climb sometimes. So all of the researchers who are prowling around with all of us ghoulish nerds with laptops, we're working in this space. All of these things, it's a really complex problem space, and people are parsing it in different ways. The research I'm going to tell you about is primarily concerned with what's called here soot. That's a certain type of air pollution and its effects on human health. The researchers in my group and the folks I collaborate with are concerned about this upper left-hand quadrant of this nice diagram. Okay, here's an introduction to our Southeast Side pilot project that we've been working on since I guess we got the funding, that little measly $60,000 in August of 2023. We got the study going in early 2024, and it was going strong through summer of 2024, and then it started to stutter and encountered obstacles, but we're still trying to continue with the project and do what we can with the investment we've made so far. Okay. Many of you are from around this area, so you know what you're looking at here. The Calumet River Industrial Corridor has a whole lot of industry on either side of it. And it's been there forever as the Calumet River has been a working river forever. You have all of these industries. They've been putting pollution in the air. They've been putting pollution in the water and in the soil. And for a long time, people have been trying to reckon with the consequences of this. Our project fits into that. The East Side community area is the focus of our little study. It's sandwiched between the Calumet River Industrial Corridor on the west and all of the polluting industries in Northwest Indiana on the east, including the BP refinery. I caught this picture of an illegal flare at the BP refinery, oh gosh, now a couple of years ago. This sort of thing, I live in Whiting, as Michael mentioned, and we're like 4 to 6 blocks away from the BP refinery. So I fairly routinely see stuff like this happening at the refinery. It's pretty disturbing. And what you're looking at here, this big plume of black smoke is exactly the kind of air pollution that our study focuses on. Last thing I'll say about the middle portion of this is that this map you're looking at with the greens and blues is the Chicago Department of Public Health's Community Impacts Assessment and Environmental Justice Neighborhoods map of Chicago. So the darker blue areas are areas that are considered environmental justice neighborhoods. And as you can see in our target area of our research, we do have an official EJ neighborhood. And then the rest of the neighborhoods in East Side are also experience the impacts of pollution, current and legacy. So that's one reason that we selected this as an area to focus our research on. Okay, what you're looking at in the lower left is a video I took outside of SH Bell there, up toward the northern end of the East Side community area, more than a year ago. I go by there and have a look at what those folks are doing, tearing apart metal and piling it up with some frequency, both from the riverside and from the street side there on Avenue N in East Side. I don't know what this mustard colored gas coming off of a welding activity is. I just know that it would count as particulate matter air pollution. It's a product of combustion, and I guarantee it's not good for any of us to be around, including the workers there in SH Bell. You see some other things around here that those of you who live on the southeast side are familiar with. This is on the Calumet River, the Ozinga facility. Here's the BP refinery in the upper right. And here in the lower right, we have the intersection of 118th Street, I think, and Avenue O, which is one intersection of many in the southeast side where you've got pretty much constant diesel truck traffic. And you can see the black smoke coming out of the back of this red diesel truck. So I mentioned earlier, big source of air pollution in the Calumet region. Okay, another thing that characterizes the East Side community area and environs is there has been a great deal of community advocacy for clean air, which made East Side also, which was another thing that made East Side very attractive for myself and my research partners. We felt it would be a good place to come and do some community science with members of the community who are already very aware of air pollution and have been thinking about it. Many of you may be familiar with this photo. It became famous in 2022, I guess, 23, when the Southeast Environmental Task Force and other groups came together to object, along with the Chicago Department of Public Health, to the permit that the city had given to Southside Recycling, which is the new face of the old General Iron that moved down from the north side and was setting up shop in the East Side community area down there on Avenue O, 116th Street, directly across from George Washington High School. So students at George Washington High School created this graphic. Oscar Sanchez of the Southeast Environmental Task Force took a photo, and it went international. There was local, regional, national, and international attention to this fight that the Southeast folks in the Southeast side initiated against the permit for the former General Iron to open up shop right there across from the high school. All of you are massively aware of that, I'm sure. In any case, that there's so much community advocacy for clean air and a particular interest in childhood asthma in the community, we thought that this would be a good place to do some community science that was mutually beneficial for the researchers and the community members themselves. Okay, here's the team for this pilot study. The principal investigator, my boss at University of Chicago, Southeast Environmental Task Force, the community partner we chose to team up with. I want to give a shout out to Alex Galvan, Masters of Social Work, who was a contractor. The SETF contracted to her to work with us on this study, and Javi Medina, who was a real workhorse on the project. Another MD, a computer scientist at Argonne National Lab was a co-investigator, an epidemiologist with an expertise in air pollution from the University of Illinois at Chicago was a co-investigator. Advocate Trinity Hospital dove in at one point to give us data on ER visits by children with asthma. And this is my home work unit at the University of Chicago, and working with me there is Avery Rosado, clinical research coordinator, and some undergraduates. And then that's me, co-investigator on this. Our funding, Institute for Translational Medicine, and undergraduate internship program funding from the University of Chicago that let us pull on some undergrads and get a little bit of extra oomph going in the project. These two MDs in the project are both lung function specialists. They're both pulmonologists. That's what their medical practice is. So they were the ones who decided that the health impact focus of our study would be childhood pediatric asthma, and that meshed with something that the community was particularly concerned with. So we thought we had a little marriage made in heaven here to get good community science going. So let's talk about air pollution. Fine particulate matter is a product of combustion, and this wonderful graphic by the EPA, I see it circulating all over the place. Many of you are probably already familiar with it. The particular type of air pollution that we're concerned with here are tiny, tiny particles. If you think that PM10 is like dust or pollen or mold, there are you can put 5 PM10 chunks, particles on a human hair. And then if you divide one of those by 4, you get PM 2.5. These are tiny, tiny particles. As far as human health is concerned, they're absolutely nasty and insidious. They are so small that they can get into when you breathe them in, they can get into the deepest reaches of your lungs, in your bronchial tubes. They can move from your tissues into your bloodstream and from there be carried all around your body. Fine particulate matter has been found in every kind of human tissue, including embedded in brain tissue, so it can pass through the border there into actual brain tissue. It's nasty stuff. Wherever it shows up in the body, it can function to disrupt biophysiological processes of all sorts. The health impacts of fine particulate matter are horrendous and very extensive. It's nasty stuff. Now, when you think about air pollution, a lot of people will say, okay, well, you're focusing on PM 2.5. What about all the other air pollutants like carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides, methane, ozone, ammonia, and then categories of pollutants, black carbon, volatile organic compounds. I gotta look at my notes. Toxic organic micropollutants, TOMPs. Okay, all of these things, yes, merit study. All of them have distinguishable impacts on our health. A lot of researchers, including a lot of the researchers who are working in the Calumet region, focus on PM 2.5 because it's a primary vehicle by which these other nasty things travel into your body. Those particles don't come into you alone. They carry stuff. Not only these chemicals that you see here, but also potentially heavy metals like lead or cadmium. It's depending on what's being combusted, what kind of industry you're dealing with, all these different kinds of things can come into your body on fine particulate matter. So doing research that looks at PM 2.5 kind of it's like an indicator pollutant. And you know, if you've got that going big time in a certain area, you're likely to have all these other things going too. Okay, what we attempted to do was use these low-cost purple air quality sensors. They continuously capture real-time, geospatially localized data on PM 2.5 air pollution. Our goal was to disperse 30 or more around the Eastside community area. This would make a middle scale grid. That's a US EPA definition. And a middle scale grid is one where there's no more than a half a kilometer between between one monitor and any other monitor. So an even distribution is what we were going for. These little monitors, they are about $300 a pop. They register a PM 2.5 level every 2 minutes, 24/7 for as long as you have them up. I want to take a minute to say what purple air monitors are. They are more than just a monitoring tech. Purple air is a worldwide movement for community science and is one reason why so many researchers, not just us, elect to use these monitors. The purple air map is available to, I'm going to see if this will come onto your screen. So give it a minute to populate. Everywhere you see a little bubble, that is a purple air monitor that someone has hung on their porch. And you can see that we have, Purple Air is a US company. We have the most purple air monitors here compared to others. They're popular in Europe. They're growing in popularity in East Asia and in South America. The colors that you see follow the EPA Air Quality Index schema. So the darker the bubble, we go from green to yellow to orange, red, purple. The darker the bubble, the worse the particulate matter air pollution. You can see this is current. This is right now what we're looking at is what the purple air monitors are registering all around the globe. And you can see that here in the United States, we have a lot of red. That is a hazardous level of particulate matter pollution. We've got all the stuff going on the West Coast, which is mostly to do with wildfires. We've got a lot of stuff happening in the Great Lakes region, which is not about wildfires. It's about in industry for the most part. Also some agriculture, which produces PM 2.5 as well. Okay, I'm going to close that. Back to this. So the purple air map is available to everyone. You can get it on your phone. There are instructions on the Purple Air website, Community Forum. You can also go there and learn about all the different community science projects that are happening all over the world. In the United States, state by state, they go over them, and around the world as well. So there are a lot of different groups, not necessarily involving scientists, who are using these things to monitor their local air pollution and learn more about their environment and the risks that they face when they walk out the door. Okay, so it's more than a monitor. Our research questions for our pilot study. We have a community that's concerned about high rates of child asthma, and the community perceives that this high rate of asthma relates to air pollution from local industry. Okay, that's the context. So we wondered, could we foster community engagement with a resource that provides real-time, hyper-local data on air pollution in a way that promotes effective community advocacy? Effective community advocacy might be you learn about your air pollution, and the next time you go to a public hearing with an EPA representative or a permit hearing, you have data at hand to present about the air pollution that you're seeing in your very neighborhood that you believe may be related to some sort of polluting industry that you have right next door. That can take a lot of forms, effective community advocacy. And then the science question was, we wanted to know if there's a correlation between the dates, times, and locations of air pollution spikes and the dates, times, and locations of child urgent asthma events, so asthma attacks. We wanted to see if we could link these things up in time and space. We put monitors all around. As this, when our grid was at its best, you can see the placements over here on the right. We did get a whole bunch of monitors put up. At any one time, there would be some monitors down. The grid sort of fluctuated as monitors came online, went offline, came back online. We never succeeded in getting any monitors placed in this all-important environmental justice neighborhood. That's a flaw of the study and something we're thinking hard about how to correct. These are all folks that were identified by SETF as people who were willing to have a monitor installed on their porches and contribute data to this pilot project that we're working on. Okay, so once we got what does that mean? Am I done? Oh, okay. Timing. Okay, once we got this grid set up, we were in a position to just generally track air pollution in the Eastside community area, which is what you're seeing from phone screen grabs here. On a lot of days, all the values are nice and low. This is generally healthy air. On other days, you've got some kind of problem coming through and the air quality is not great. Some days it's even worse. And over here on the right is the worst air pollution we have captured since installing our grid. And it may surprise you to know that the worst air pollution we've ever seen was not due to any identifiable industrial source. It was not due to the Canadian wildfires up north. It was due to backyard, back alley fireworks and grilling on the 4th of July, 2024. The data you see here is all a really horrendous level of particulate matter air pollution that's the result of kind of a human behavior factor. Folks wanting to do fireworks and grill on 4th of July. Okay, I'm counting myself as pretty much out of time, but the case for grid-based monitoring, the reason what we've attempted to do here we feel is so important is that it allows you to identify particular areas that have bad pollution in comparison to other areas. The reason you can do this is because block by block with true grid-based monitoring, you're actually measuring the air quality. You're not, as the EPA does, modeling it based on interpolating values from the widely dispersed network of monitors that the EPA itself uses. So these two screen grabs were taken at the same time. This is the EPA Air Now map that some of you may be familiar with. It uses the same color scheme as the purple airs do. And you can see that at the same time, the EPA is telling members of our region that the air quality is really pretty good. A lot of green, some yellow. But our purple air quality monitors are picking up actually some real problems, some very localized problems. The difference between these two measures, these two types of data, is with the purple airs, we're actually measuring air pollution. The Air Now air quality assessment system is estimating or modeling air pollution. They're taking monitors that are very far apart from one another and sort of guessing with modeling and mathematics what the air quality values are in between those monitors. So grid-based local actual measurement of air quality gets you the best data. I mentioned spikes earlier. We've noticed in the Eastside community area that we have areas that tend to show really high values. Like this is right at Ewing Avenue in 106. And we very often see high values there. We often see high values down here at the bottom end of the Eastside community area, right near the Shroud Superfund site. You know, all of that stuff that I guess kids still take their three-wheelers on and kick up PM 2.5. Asthma, it turned out it was very difficult to get the kind of localized asthma data about children that we were going for. Our pulmonologist colleagues thought we would be able to harvest the data that we needed for our study, for our very precise research question, from local emergency rooms. It turns out, though, that you can only drill down so far to the level of the zip code in emergency room data. So if you recall that really bad interval of air pollution I showed you on the right of that earlier slide, where all of the dots were purple and showing hazardous air quality, that was in July 2024. It was the worst air quality we ever measured. We would have expected incidence of ER visits to be really high in July 2024. In fact, there was only one child who showed up in the entire month at Advocate Trinity Hospital with an urgent asthma event. So emergency room data is not what we needed. Okay, we've learned a lot from this little pilot study. The purpose of a pilot study is really not to get the right answer. It's to learn how to ask the question correctly and to set up your study so that you do have a chance of getting to the right answer. Purple air monitors, they're low cost, they're cheap, they're not the greatest technology, so they're not entirely accurate, not 100% reliable. Atmospheric scientists don't use them, but they do have public health utility. You can look at those values on the map and see whether they're going up, whether they're coming down. And if you have the ability to look at health impacts at the very time that those things are going up and down, you can approach a public health use for this kind of data, for all that it's not 100% accurate and reliable. We discovered there are barriers to sensor adoption. There are a lot of folks who simply do not want to host one of these things on their porch. You need an outdoor plug, and you need reliable Wi-Fi in your home. A lot of folks are unfamiliar with this kind of technology, and they were just generally leery about inviting a little unit like this into their house. We worked with the Southeast Environmental Task Force. They, like just about every other community organization, is overrun by the hordes of nerds with laptops, right? Everybody is wanting to get in with these organizations and do community science with them, and they are just exhausted and spent. And it's too much for them. We also have a problem in the Southeast side. I don't know how you guys feel about this, but we have kind of a siloing of environmental justice advocates. People don't entirely agree on how to move forward, what the best way forward is. So you can run into kind of thickets of animosity. And there's this community nerd fatigue. People don't want to see more nerds with laptops. We are not giving up. We're branching out to other sectors and institutions, including Mobile Care Chicago. These are the folks who have the asthma data on little children that we need to answer our research question. We've been attempting to collaborate with them. Wonderful organization. These vans park outside schools, and they work with students in the schools. They provide steady pulmonary and lung function care to students in low resource areas of Chicago. We're reaching out to other communities. This kind of research offers a wonderful STEM learning platform for students at all levels. It involves, the science is multifaceted and interesting, and it's easy to get students interested in this kind of thing. And so working with classrooms full of children can potentially lead to each of those children, the school family, potentially wanting to have a monitor, and building a case that you can do STEM learning with this kind of research implementation has the additional benefit of magnetizing more research dollars. So you can then get a bigger grant, get beyond your pilot study level, and do some real science. Recently, I spoke with someone who introduced me to this concept of creation care. A lot of the community science projects are engaging with churches, and this falls into the domain of folks with these folks who go to church, folks who belong to church communities, are concerned with taking care of creation and learning about the negative effects of industry or whatever on creation is something that many people in church communities feel is an important, are motivated to work on. Okay. So I went a little bit longer than I planned to. I hope there's time for comments and questions. Thanks to all of you for your kind attention, and thanks to the Association for the Wolf Lake Initiative and Calumet College St. Joseph. And there's our wonderful region. Comments, questions?
Hi, this is Marianne Kozlowski. And first of all, thank you very much. That was a wonderfully enlightening presentation. Really, really was glad to attend this Zoom meeting to hear it. I was just wondering, there are areas of green space like Eggers. Michael and Valerie will probably laugh that I'm mentioning this, but I'm the steward at Eggers. And that there were some monitors close by, but do you take into consideration, just areas which maybe don't have as much pollution because there aren't trucks nearby and, the health benefits of a spot like that?
Absolutely. Marianne, thank you for that question. I probably didn't explain enough. This with a grid scale, with a middle scale grid monitoring approach, you are necessarily going to have monitors in greener spaces and in less green spaces. And that's exactly the point of our study design. We want monitors in all sorts of areas that have different levels of pollution, so that we can have a look at health impacts. The prediction being you're going to see fewer impacts of air pollution in the greener spaces and more impacts of air pollution in the less green spaces. So what you've just outlined actually is the logic underlying our study approach.
Okay. The monitors, though, seem to be located in residential areas on the east side, or maybe I'm not familiar enough with the geography, but
Are you, are you referring to our actual monitor placements?
yes, yes.
Okay, thanks also for bringing that up. Yes, it was our partners, our community partners, spread out across the East Side community area, block by block, attempting to get monitors evenly distributed. That turned out to be a really tough thing to do. You had a lot of refusals. So not only do you have refusals, but so for example, in this area that I'm circling now, which encompasses the official environmental justice neighborhood of the East Side community area, you have a lot of older housing. You have a lot of older folks there. The older housing will often not have an outdoor outlet where you can actually plug in a monitor. These things need to be kept plugged in order to do their 24/7 every 2-minute monitoring. And with a lot of older folks, you might have folks who don't have internet or are a little bit uncertain about how adding a monitor that will make use of their internet would affect their own use of their internet for whatever streaming videos or whatever they're interested in. So it turned out to be a tough sell in some neighborhoods within the East Side community area to get buy-in, to find hosts. So we were going for even distribution. We couldn't achieve it. And that's doing science in the real world, you know?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Thanks for those questions. They're very clarifying.
Susan, Matthew here. Thanks for the
Hi, Matthew.
presentation. That area that you're pointing at least the area south of the Skyway,
Yep.
is windward, if that's the right word, of the salt pile, and also it's where all the trucks pile up when they're doing the salt deliveries in the mornings, and so it seems like a critical area. Is it possible to get anything in that area in terms of monitoring? I mean, that seems
Matt,
like hypercritical to get data
Matt,
from there.
it's beyond hypercritical. Thanks for pointing this out. And I'm going to start weeping. The whole progress of this research has been about me jumping up and down and saying, can't we get some monitors there? And you're absolutely right. But on 106th and 100th, on those mornings when there's a need for salt to be scattered around, you go over there before dawn and the diesel trucks are just lined up for a mile along there waiting to get their load of salt. It's essential for this kind of study to have plenty of monitors right around there. We just couldn't make it happen. This little project, this fragile little can-do, scrappy project, we tried and we failed in a lot of ways. So, as I say, we're at this point, we're in communication with a school community. We've got a wonderful science teacher at George Washington High School who has invited me and my colleague Avery Rosado, who might be on this call, to come and speak to his environmental science class, his AP environmental science class. And I'm thinking, George Washington High School draws children from school families all across the East Side community area. It could be that through that group, we may be able to find a few families who would be willing to hang a monitor on their house and would have the wherewithal to. So we're going to keep plugging away, keep trying to get more monitors up. Both you and Marianne have mentioned the crucial failing of this pilot study so far. It has failed in that way, but not for us not trying.
Well,
Yeah.
right. Well, I mean, it's not a failure because you're just starting, but it's.
Oh man.
But I mean, is there is there some other technology that could be gotten into that little pocket there? I mean, that that maybe would be more expensive, but that somebody
Yeah.
might fund just to get some real data out of that area. It just seems so
I would
critical.
say,
Yes. Is there somebody else who wanted to ask a question? Okay.
I did, but I'll wait until you're finished with that. I do have a question.
Okay. Okay, Eve. Yeah, Matt, there are other technologies. They are a lot more expensive. Getting anything that runs 20, which is what you need for this study, is a thing that's going to run 24/7 for a year. You want to be collecting data for a year, so you get all the seasons and you get all the different levels of humidity, all the different atmospheric variables that our region has to offer. That kind of technology can get really expensive. We had $60,000 to spend. Okay. Now that first set of slides I showed you, there are groups pulling down $25 million. I kind of want to go shake those people and say, help, figure out how to really get grid-based monitoring, which is so important, going in these neighborhoods where we really need the data. So, I'm talking to you guys, to this group, at a point where we've made this one attempt. We're still working it, and we're asking ourselves exactly the kind of question that you just asked, Matt. With what kind of budget could we buy what sort of monitor that maybe could be battery powered, solar powered, wouldn't need to plug into somebody's porch in a house that was built before 1900. And so it's all a matter of, you do a pilot, you learn stuff, you see what you could and couldn't do, and then you think, okay, if I've got an order of magnitude more money, then could I really do this? Yeah, that's the calculus. Great question. Thank you. Eve?
Yes, I have a couple of questions. First of all, I'd like to get back to the kids with asthma. So you were, connected with doctors from Trinity. It sounded like there was an expectation that children with asthma are being treated in the emergency room.
Mm-hmm.
That's where they're going to see them. If anything goes wrong with kids with asthma, that's the site where they're going to be seen for medical treatment.
That was the assumption. It was incorrect.
So I'm sorry. So going forward, do you know, is there some other thing going on? Like, are kids going to their primary physicians? Do we know where they're going for treatment, so that the next time you look at this, you can look at that data? Because I can't believe that there was only one kid that had a reaction to the 4th of July.
No kidding. I mean, unless all those families just packed up their kids and took them to the beach.
Unless they already know and they're gone. Yeah.
Right. I have a few things to say. Thank you for asking this. One thing that we learned, and this is where community science and researchers and community members working together really happen. One thing we learned from our community members is that the primary thing that a family with a child with asthma wants to do is keep that child out of the emergency room. They do not want to go to the emergency room. So the whole strategy, if you've got a child like that who might be having regular attacks, is you and the child learn how to manage it at home. So the last place a kid like that is going to show up is in the emergency room. I scratched my head long and hard and asked why 2 pulmonologists on our team did not know that. Okay. That aside, we did find, and I mentioned Mobile Care Chicago, the data that we need could easily come from working with this organization. This particular organization in the East Side community area, we learned, is following 79 children who have pathological asthma. 79 kids spread across the neighborhood the size of East Side. They're at all the schools, Mobile Care Chicago. That for a pilot size study, that would give us enough data to begin to get at our research question of pairing up locations where asthma attacks are occurring and locations where we're getting spikes in air pollution. We could have done it. We encountered Mobile Care Chicago kind of late in our study trajectory. So it's kind of like we bookmarked it for future reference. And if we do decide to continue with this line of research with this particular health impact, we will certainly attempt to get $25 million and throw a whole bunch of it at Mobile Care Chicago, you know, and really try to nail that relationship of asthma attacks and locations of pollution sites.
So, and then, yeah, thank you for that. I mean, that certainly explains a lot. The other thing is, I was wondering, with all this money that's floating around, are all these? I mean, it's kind of overwhelming to think about that. Is anybody working together?
No.
Okay.
They are not. This is where you get into the sociology of science and how perverse it is, and the incentives are very perverse. Every one of those projects has researchers, faculty clinging to it who need to get tenure. Each of those faculty members has PhD students who need to get a PhD dissertation written. They're going to hang on to their data,
Sure.
until those outcomes are realized. I'm not in that. I'm a staff researcher. I got no tenure concerns. I don't have a PhD student clinging to me. I hate this system. So I'm getting a message from my timekeeper. So does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. Valerie, you've had your hand up.
Yes, Susan, I just wanted to say that I really appreciate and admire how frankly you are looking at resistance that people and communities sometimes have, whether it's suspicion of high-tech gadgets that they don't necessarily want near their homes, or whether it is the nerd fatigue that you mentioned. I think it can be very easy for those of us who, sorry, I should put my hand down now. I think it can be very easy for those of us who care so much about these concerns to say, well, naturally, if we just explain to people why this matters so much, of course they will support and participate what we're doing. That's not always the case. Toward the end of your presentation, you mentioned creation care as an environmentally positive theme at churches. For what it's worth, a couple of years ago, I reactivated the green group, well, now we call it the green team at our church.
Yeah.
What we found, what we have been finding all along, is that a lot of people just instinctively don't like it when you start talking about taking care of the planet. In a church context, in the context of our church, I can't generalize about others, but in the context of our particular church, what works is linking what we're doing very clearly, very directly to some way of helping people. Now, obviously, you're doing that with the air pollution. You're linking it to breathing problems among children and adults. In our case, if we were to say we need to recycle crayons to keep them out of the landfills, that wouldn't go over too well. Whereas when we say we're recycling crayons, and this is true, we're recycling crayons so they can be made into brand new crayons for children in hospitals, then all of a sudden, oh, well, it's about helping people,
Okay.
So
That's
it's just very interesting. You have to kind of meet people where they are and gradually engage them sometimes.
Definitely. And with these research dollars flowing, and with a priority to engage communities, what you just said is so insightful and wise. There's an interval of engagement that has to happen before where researchers and community members learn how to communicate with one another so that before anything good can happen. I mean, we were trying to be strategic in choosing the particular neighborhood and the particular community organization we dealt with here. We thought that we could skip that interval because there was so much consciousness raising that had already happened around these big, loud issues. As an example, the permit for General Iron, the metal shredding recycler. We thought that, and also SETF is an organization that a lot of different research groups have worked with specifically. And so we thought that we wouldn't have that problem, but you outlined it beautifully. We did have exactly that issue, and I completely understand it. And yeah, my training is in behavioral science and human communication, and I think about how to do that better a lot. So yeah, pilot study, you learn a lot, and you try to figure out how to do it better next time out with more money.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Mary Ann again. One final question. Did you contact anybody I mean, this is the 10th ward of the city of Chicago. Robin Kelly's, I think, is the 2nd congressional district. Were any of those offices helpful at all? I mean, they've got all kinds of networks.
They do. And for me, that's bookmarked as a next time out. I will say that if you choosing a community organization to interact with kind of cuts off certain other things. We were nudged away from reaching out to labor unions, elected officials. And so, we had this committed relationship with one community organization, and we needed to respect their sensitivities, I guess is what you would say.
Thank you.
Yeah, I feel like working through the
Understood.
schools, we are gonna escape a lot of that because schools are schools, and a STEM learning platform is a beautiful thing. And yeah, so anyway, diving back to the very beginning, I told you guys that I wear 2 hats. I'm both the scientist and I'm compelled to be dispassionate about data. Data can come down on either side of an issue, and that's what I love about data. I'm also a community member, and I know all these folks there, and I have a reputation in my own community to protect. And so if there's to be a future of this research and I'm to be a part of it, I definitely need to maintain relationships, build relationships, and figure out how to. I don't think I need to finish that sentence for you guys. Yeah.
You need to figure out, right?
Yeah. It's been great. I mean, everybody that we've collaborated with has been wonderful. And the work that the folks that we worked with through SETF was spectacular. They were indefatigable, and yeah. So
Thank you.
More questions?
I had one question.
hi, Terry.
Susan, I wonder if you could speak to the spikes issue a little bit. I'm wondering, how often do the purple air monitors sample the air? Is it like every minute or every hour, or
It's every 2 minutes, Terry.
2 minutes?
Yeah. So the real-time data that you can pull up on your phone if you load the link onto your screen. Yeah. And the let's see, I think I'll go here. So I will say that one truth that we were, or finding that we were able to extract, for all that we didn't get our study set up quite the way I'd hoped. If you look at this map here, you see the East Side community area with darker tones than in the rest of Chicago. We did notice that 2 or 3 times a month, the East Side community area has the worst air quality in the region. And it's very rarely the case that they have I think maybe I've never seen it, that East Side community area has the best air quality in the region. And that worst air quality, when we looked at it more closely, we see that there are spots in the East Side community area that routinely spike to high levels. And from a science perspective, we're particularly interested in spikes. It's an open question, and you need grid-based monitoring to answer it. It's an open question about what the effect is of a big spike in air pollution. Does it matter how long it lasts? Does it matter? Is the most important thing that you live in an area where you're routinely having spikes? So it's often happening that you're getting air pollution exposures that are above a certain hazardous level. Is the average air quality for your area over months the most important thing when it comes to tying health impacts to this? These are all open questions, and a lot of researchers, we especially, are really interested in assessing spikes. And again, it's an issue that in order to do that properly, we need to get a solid grid so we can really localize where these things are happening, where the hotspots are, and follow them for at least a year. So I may have wandered off topic there. Does that address your question?
That's great. Yeah, because I saw in some kind of documentary once how the EPA maybe averages their measurements per hour or something, and then therefore they delete all the spikes. So
absolutely. Okay. Yes, please join me in my next science outing. You've got it right there. Yeah, EPA averages over 24 hours for the most part, and they don't always. They're not consistent. They're not always putting the data out there. So not only are they averaging for 24 hours, they are interpolating values. So you're not actually getting a measurement of your own neighborhood. And so, yeah, they've got the best monitors. They cost $40,000 a pop or something, but there are only 750 of them across the entire United States. And that's not enough to collect the kind of data that we need to do the sort of science that we're trying to do.
right,
I would
great.
argue too, it's not enough data for community members to really understand their local situation.
Well, it's really great that you're doing this. Yeah.
Thank you.
Terry? Terry, do you have a question?
Yes. On the purple monitors, you have a network set up on the southeast side.
Yes.
Is that linked to where you can go to other neighborhoods that have monitors, and where you could actually go and see what's happening in other neighborhoods that you aren't necessarily tied into, but you could take a look at their information, or no?
Oh, absolutely. And thank you for asking that. I think I wasn't clear. The Purple Air map presents data, real-time data on every single Purple Air monitor worldwide. And you can ask questions about any monitor. You can collect the data from any monitor. And you can look anywhere in the United States. You can look all over Chicago. So here we are, lower end of Lake Michigan. By the way, air quality has been bad all day today. And I'm not quite sure why. We haven't had a lot of wind. I don't know. Anyway, it's been bad. It's these red bubble values are, if you have a condition or something all day today, you should have been staying inside. But yeah, in answer to your question, all of these data are available to anyone in the world. So it's routinely the case that scientists are downloading data from Purple Air monitors in other cities and running analyses on them, or downloading all the data from one city and from an agricultural region and comparing. All of these data are available to everyone. That's what I meant when I said that it's Purple Air is more than just a monitor. It's this community science data available for everyone for free. You don't have to own a monitor to be able to access these data. Yeah, and that's the idea. Does that answer your question?
Yes, that does. It just, I guess we just need to build it out more as far as more purple monitors, huh?
Music to my ears. Music to my ears. Build out. I have this dream of a pearl necklace of monitors all along the southern shore of Lake Michigan, all through the Calumet region. And then, boy, we could really do some science and some community organizing. It would be great.
I guess Marktown would probably be a great place to have it all around the community there, huh? Since they're surrounded by the refinery and the steel mills and chemical plants.
Yeah, really should go knock on some doors in Marktown for sure. Yeah, yeah. But again, you need even distribution. You need green spaces and not so green spaces to get a solid picture.
Any more questions? I don't want to keep people here all night. Susan, I think we're running out of questionnaires, but
Okay.
thank you so much for coming. And it's kind of amazing because we have about as many people here after a full hour, and we normally do not keep that many people. So I don't know what you got, Susan, but you got.
Well, people are really worried about what they're breathing, appropriately so.
That might very well be. Very good.
Yeah.
So
thank you all so much.
Right, and I want to thank everybody for coming, and Valerie and I would both like to thank Susan for her talk. We'll see you next month when the speaker for Calumet Revisited will be Mary Beth Putup. Is that how you pronounce it, Susan? Do you know her? She's from.
I'm not sure if that's how to pronounce it.
Right. Okay. I'll have to ask her.
Thank you, Susan. It was a great presentation.
Thank all of you. Thank you very much for joining.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.